Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In today's video, I've got two stories for you and both have updates, so let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user PopularValuable243. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that she shouldn't overvalue herself and prepare for the worst? I, 21 female, have an older sister, Eve, 29 female, who had her first child, Lori, 1 female. And while this should be a time of joy and excitement, there's actually a lot of tension and brewing resentment between her, our mom, and her husband, Jack, 29 male. Despite it being unplanned, Eve's pregnancy was wanted and Jack was an involved partner. He went to most of Eve's appointments, took the birthing classes, and supported Eve's decision to just have our mom in the room while he waited outside when she gave birth. The plan was for our mom to be by Eve's side in the room and to help stay for a week after Lori was born. Everyone was cool with this, but unfortunately our aunt got into some drama with her husband in another state and our mom rushed over to be at her sister's side. Eve was already in her 3rd trimester, so Jack didn't like the idea of our mom going and voiced it. Our mom tore Jack a new one and Eve even got on his case about it, so he apologized. However, Eve ended up going into labor and Jack ultimately was the one in the room while our mom was away. When she called, our mom expressed being sad over not being there for the birth of her first grandchild and she and Eve decided that no one else in the family would see Lori until she got back. They decided this without discussing it with Jack. He was understandably not happy as his mom lived about 45 minutes away and was looking forward to meeting Lori too, as she was the first grandchild on both sides. Eve pulled the "I just gave birth" card and Jack reluctantly allowed it. On the day that our mom was supposed to come back, she missed her flight and couldn't get a new one until the following morning. Our mom could have just rented a car, but she didn't want to spend the money since the airline wouldn't refund the money. Jack brought up allowing his mom to come again, but Eve refused, citing that he already agreed. Unfortunately, Jack's mom was in a car accident and passed before ever getting to meet Lori since Eve wouldn't even allow a video chat. Jack was distraught. He moved to the guest room, went to the funeral alone, and refuses to engage with Eve at all. Jack's side of the family keeps calling and messaging Eve to tell her what a selfish and awful person she is, and Jack refuses to defend her. Eventually, Eve got sick of it and packed up and left to our mom's house to teach Jack a lesson, but he hasn't texted or called. Our mom thinks that he just needs some space and that he'll call soon. But I just laughed at it. I didn't mean to though. My mom and Eve asked me why I laughed and I tried to brush it off or even leave, but they wouldn't let me and pressed for an answer. Eventually, I told her that while the accident wasn't her fault, she did keep Lori away from Jack's mom meeting her for a week and now she never will. There's no way Jack is ever going to love you enough to forgive that and that you should prepare for the worst. Eve started to bawl her eyes out while our mom berated me, so I left. I think I may be the a-hole because what I did can be seen as kicking my sister while she's already down. So, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, you just answered their question. They asked you to know what you meant when you sort of laughed at your mom's comment, which is laughable, of course. And you were honest, so no, I don't think you're the a-hole. And also, I don't think your sister was particularly crying for what you said. I think your sister was crying because it was a reality check for what she did. Why the F does it matter who meets the baby first? Like, do they get some sort of a medal that they display or like do they get a parade or something? No, nobody really cares. Except your mom who's a huge ass. She was committed to your sister to be there with her. Her husband had agreed to this. And I understand wanting to help your sibling out, sure. But she was already committed to your sister. I absolutely understand Jack being upset about this. And your sister behaved like a complete moron. There's no harm in letting Jack's mom meet the baby. But like you said, now she's never gonna get that chance. Eve effed up big time, but then she decided to double down and teach Jack a lesson by leaving the house. But anyways, back to you, OP. No, I don't think you're the a-hole for telling your sister what she needed to hear. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Fantastic Mango 7440 says, probably would get downvoted, but who cares? Not the a-hole. Your mom showed time and time again that her first granddaughter isn't that important to her. The fact that Jack's mom would never meet her granddaughter is something that Jack would never get over, and he is right. His mom was denied access because the other grandmother would rather cater to her adult sister than meeting her granddaughter. That woman died with the wish to see her first granddaughter. Jack and the rest of the family are never going to forgive your sister for this. Hopefully, they won't take it on the baby. And OP responds, to be fair, it wasn't a small thing. My aunt's husband was revealed to be cheating and used her personal information to take out credit cards in her name to pay for his side piece, plus the potential danger of her own health. Zany95 says, not the a-hole. I think that Jack is probably 50% heartbroken that he lost his mom and 50% feels guilty that he didn't push harder to have his mother meet the baby. That is a very tough thing to overcome. Eve had better prepared herself to have shared custody at the least. Your sister and mother are a piece of work. And what is with these, only my family can meet the child first? Once the baby is born, they have two parents with extended family. Just because I gave birth, it didn't mean my husband was the lesser parent. And Dangerous Winter Elf says, not the a-hole. She's sad and crying? Good. Someone needed to give her a reality check since no one else would. Pretty clear mom won't, because if she does, she would have to admit her own fault in this. Unless she, for some reason, didn't know your sister was blocking access to the child with her mother-in-law. But I doubt she didn't know. This isn't some, I'll pout for a few days at mommy's place and then he'll come begging for me minor thing. He lost his mom. He won't ever have the joy of sharing this new role as a dad with her. She won't even have a single picture of her holding her grandchild, all because of a wife who wanted to play power games and make it into her child, frankly put, and not their child. I doubt he will ever forgive her, not even with the world's amount of couples therapy or talks, especially when she can't even show the decency of apologizing. She has shown him a very, very ugly side of herself, from keeping the child from his mom, pouting, leaving the home, no apologizing, being stubborn, and it's time she took a look in the mirror. Marriage is about being a team, not my wishes counts more than yours. Additional information from OP's comments. Lori is 1 year old now and she was less than 3 weeks old when Jack's mom died. This has been an ongoing issue for months. He moved into the guest room soon after his mom's passing and was living there for months before Eve decided to come to our mom's house because she says she doesn't know what else to do. He won't talk to her unless it is directly about Lori and barely looks at her. This has been an ongoing issue. As far as I know, it was a span of 5 months between Jack being in the guest room and Eve going to our mom's house. She's apologized more than once for what happened, but Jack isn't engaging, and my sister did intend to go to the funeral with Jack, but he drove off without her. Eve hasn't bad-mouthed him, at least to me, since his mom's accident, but she is frustrated that he's no longer affectionate and doesn't engage with her like before. From my understanding, since the plan was for our mom to come and help with the baby, Jack was only off work for a week. If he stayed away longer, it wouldn't be paid, but would assist with the night feedings with stored breast milk and do most of the cleaning in the house. However, after his mom passed, Jack didn't do anything for a few days. I get it. And then, when he moved into the guest room, he'd continued doing most of the house cleaning, give Lori a bath at night and rock her to sleep. The delay in my mom meeting Lori was just supposed to be 1 week. No one saw this accident coming, and Jack didn't want to stress out my sister, who had just given birth. He was trying to respect her wishes and got screwed over because of it. Our mom meeting the baby first was something that was really important to Eve, and she was the one who gave birth and still healing from it, so she got her way. Also, my mom did reach out to give her condolences for Jack's mom's passing, but I don't know if she apologized for insisting on being the first grandparent to see the baby. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and the additional context allows us to understand the whole timeline of this thing. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Hey, it's been a couple of weeks, and due to people still occasionally asking, I thought I'd give people some quick updates on the situation. Right now, it seems like Eve is just doing whatever she has to do to keep Jack from leaving her, as well as getting back on Jack's family's good side. Here are the basic bullet points. 1. My sister has now been officially diagnosed with postpartum depression, and that is the trump card or Hail Mary of the situation. 2. My sister and her husband are living together again and in couples therapy. 3. My sister is in individual counseling. 4. My niece has now been officially introduced to a few members of her paternal side of the family, and they all love her. 5. Jack's family have ceased their negative comments about my sister, but she says that they're still pretty formal and distant towards her. I honestly don't know if she'll ever be in their good graces again, and will only put up with her for my brother-in-law and niece's sake. 6. My niece's first and middle name is going to be legally changed to whatever Jack wants. From my understanding, Eve got to pick the first name and Jack got to pick the middle name from a list of names that Eve had, and my niece took Jack's surname. 7. For the next 5 years, brother-in-law's side of the family is getting priority when it comes to any and all holidays. And 8. My mom will be on a strict information diet when it comes to the baby. No pictures unless Jack approves. This is all I know for right now, and my mom is not happy with any of this and is calling Jack a controlling a-hole, but my sister is holding firm in an effort to save her marriage. She claims that brother-in-law and her are making progress in counseling, and I hope for her sake that's true. It's gonna suck not being able to see my niece as much as I wanted for the next possible few years, but compared to never being able to see her at all, like Jack's mom, it is what it is. I won't deny that Jack is taking full advantage of Eve's willingness to do whatever it takes to save the marriage, but Jack has never come off as a controlling person in the past. I mean, he didn't put up any opposition to Eve's request or demands since finding out that she was pregnant. But Eve has a support system if she feels like it's getting to be too much. I'm not gonna get involved until I suspect violence. And from what Eve has told me, it's not isolation so much as strict boundaries. Eve said that these restrictions were only for the baby and that she's able to still have regular contact with whoever she chooses. I know a lot of you may not be happy with this update, but it is what it is for now. Well, OP, of course it is not a happy update for anybody in this whole situation. Not for Jack, certainly not for Jack's mom or his wife. Your mom, I don't really care about her so much. She just constantly proves what a big a-hole she is. It's all about her. And even though I do hope that Jack and your sister can find their way back, I'm not so sure I would bet on that. Thanks for sharing, OP. So now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Paul, Man of Farts. Am I the a-hole for confirming my mother-in-law's suspicion that I didn't want her in the kitchen while I cooked? Apparently, I'm still in her doghouse for this, so I wanted an outside opinion. My mother-in-law is not a bad person, but she can be very difficult. My wife, Sarah, has learned to process these things with grace, which I appreciate. I am still learning, but I will get there, I hope. One of the ways she's difficult is that she has some manipulative tendencies. A very common tactic for her is to fake or whine that she's not welcome here. I guess I'll just go out. With the obvious implication that we need to comfort her and tell her that she is welcome. I suspect she has some abandonment issues, but I am not a therapist. Again, my wife has learned to deal with this over her lifetime. It's just the way mom is, which is fine. I hate it and it is manipulative garbage, but I might do the same thing. Now to the issue at hand. My wife and I bought our first home last year, so we hosted Christmas. This is mother-in-law's first time being a guest instead of the host, so I knew we'd need to be patient with her. She's out of control of the situation, and that's hard. Well, it was Christmas dinner cooking time. Our kitchen can be generously referred to as efficient, and I was cooking for 12 people while Sarah played host. And my mother-in-law found every excuse to park herself in my way as I was trying to roast a goose and make 5 sides. I had to ask her several times to move just to find space to chop. Finally, this exchange, recalled as exactly as I can, occurred. I said, "Hey mom, you can just go hang in the living room with everyone else. I got this." And she said, "Oh, I get it. I'm not welcome here." Imagine this in a fake drama tone. And I responded with, "Well, yeah, but I figured it would be rude to say it like that." I think she was mad I didn't play along because the facade dropped instantly. She said, "Fine," and went back to the other group. I didn't think much of it until she told Sarah this week that she was still mad at me. Am I the a-hole? No, OP, you're not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law just has double the job. She got mad, that was the first part of the job. Now she needs to get unmad because it's all on her. You've got nothing to do here. Unless you want to feed into her behavior and enable her being a manipulative centerpiece, because that's what she's doing, just looking for attention. You weren't rude, you just called her bluff. Now, your wife knows your mother-in-law better, and if she's gonna be a pain in the ass, then maybe you should talk to your wife, tell her how things happened, and maybe you guys can come up with a solution. But honestly, I wouldn't apologize because that's just gonna feed the monster what it wants. So yeah, not the a-hole OP. And what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Dino Snuggler says, "Not the a-hole. Her manipulation didn't work on you and she's big mad about it. I would stop playing along altogether. After all, that's just the way you are." And OP responds, "We come from pretty significantly different cultures, so the communication is hard sometimes. Like, I had to learn that when Sarah's family says, 'Are you sure that's a good idea?' it really means, if you do that, we will excommunicate you from the family forever." Heavy Sand 5228 says, "Not the a-hole. Just because your wife tolerates mother-in-law's manipulation doesn't mean you have to. And now you know that calling her bluff gets her out of your way. And maybe her being mad about it means she'll leave you alone. So that's a plus." And No Quiet 8208 says, "Not the a-hole. I don't like people in my kitchen when I cook. We have a small kitchen and they just get in the way. You asked her very nicely to go hang out with the rest of the family. If she gets offended over that, well, that's her problem, not yours." And OP responds, "Lots of counter space, but designed like a big hallway. Sad face." Well, the community agrees that OP was not the a-hole and the mother-in-law just needs to get over it. So let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Okay, so this went really poorly, but somehow could have gone even worse. My mother-in-law is more of a piece of work than I thought. A couple of days after I posted that, I showed my wife the comments, warts and all. To her credit, she was apologetic in that she knew her mom was in the wrong, but had gotten so used to the behavior that she was hesitant to correct it. I said that we probably need to rip the band-aid off if her mom was going to come back next year, and she agreed, very reluctantly. I should note something about my wife's family. They don't really argue in the way you or I understand it. They complain to each other's faces loudly, and then no one changes their mind. And then it's buried until it flares up again. This is something my wife and I have worked through very thoroughly over the course of many years, and it is probably why mother-in-law's marriage recently fell apart. Anyway, so we get on a call with her and bring up her grievance, with me as a silent speakerphone partner, and she is still apologetic about it for reasons that I frankly do not understand at the time. She starts talking herself in wild circles about what she perceives happened, which was not particularly accurate, but I don't much care. I just want harmony next time she visits. And finally, my wife says something to the effect of, "Mom, what are you actually upset about?" And finally, we get to the actual crux. "I'm just really disappointed that my son-in-law would speak to me like that." "Mom, he asked you to leave the kitchen several times and you wouldn't." "I'm 70 years old and I know my way around the kitchen, and some respect for it would be nice." So that's what it was. You were all right. It was a stupid effing power play about her being a guest instead of in charge. To my wife's eternal credit, she used the phrasing I recommended. Mom, next time you're here, you need to respect the boundaries we set. Mother-in-law says, fine, and hangs up and ignores my wife for 3 weeks, but was all sunshine next time they talked. Now I know that I will need to meticulously set those boundaries with my words and then enforce those boundaries if she breaks them. But honestly, I don't know what I expect going forward. It's at least nice to know what the actual problem was. Thanks to all who helped me see what was really going on. Well, OP, good for you. You were able to give your mother-in-law the time she needed to get over it. She took her 3 weeks and maybe she thought she was punishing you guys for not being present in your lives. But the good thing is that now you know it's just a power play, so you can set the boundaries and take her power away. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.